The road to the Kentucky Derby and the Kentucky Oaks began way back in September. Points have been earned. 20 horses in the starting gate for the Kentucky Derby, 14 for the Oaks, and just one order of business left. The post position draw presented by Ford from the Aristides Lounge here at Churchill Downs in Louisville, Kentucky. It's time for the post position draw, now just moments away. Joe Christovac and Scott Shapiro joining you. And Scott, if you earned your way in as a racehorse, owners, trainers, jockeys, everybody involved sitting behind us right now have to be proud.
Yeah, congratulations to all the connections, and congratulations to Forte, who was atop the leaderboard through much of the way after the win in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. There you see the leaderboard, Joe, for the last time, 190 points to Forte, one of three top pledgers on the first page.
Tapit Trice, Kings Barnes being the other two. You see Derma, Sotagake representing Japan Disarm, earned his way in with a third-place finish in the Lexington as he sneaks into the field.
Yeah, last-minute deal for Disarm. That third-place effort got him into the field. As we take a look at the last page, Reincarnate, Jace's Road likely to be prominent early. Skinner be coming from way out of it.
Three on the outside looking in. Cyclone Mischief would be the first one to draw in if there is a defection. The Kentucky Oaks is coming up first, though, Scott. That will be a run on Friday. 14 horses in the Kentucky Oaks. Brad Cox has won it twice. He's got two of the favorites this year. The likely choice, Wet Paint.
He does. Wet Botanical did her work up at Turfway Park over the all-weather surface. The dirt is the question. Wet Paint, 3 off-the-pace victories in the Oaklawn. The last one did come over a fast main track.
Todd Pletcher has done his damage in this race as well, winning it 3 times. He's got Gambling Girl. Julia Shining on the outside looking in, the full sister to Malathat, who won this race a couple of years ago. The draw for the Kentucky Derby will happen second. The Kentucky Oaks draw now just moments away, looking very, very forward to that. Third member of our team is Caitlin Free. She's going to tell us exactly how the draw is going to work. Caitlin, welcome.
Thank you, Joe. Ladies first coming up here in the Kentucky Oaks, followed by the 149th Kentucky Derby. Pills will be pulled out of the pill bottle, and then the entries will be randomly drawn as well to form those post positions. 7 up in the Kentucky Oaks, take a break. 7 up once again to complete the draw. Then we will do the Kentucky Derby, 10 up, take a break, and then 10 to complete the draw, followed by the jockey assignments and the morning lines.
Looking very forward to all of that. Travis Stone, the track announcer here at Churchill Downs, will be the MC of this event. The Kentucky Oaks will be drawn first, followed by the Kentucky Derby. And to kick off the proceedings, here is the bugler here at Churchill Downs, none other than Steve Budham. And Steve, let's get it started.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Churchill Downs. Steve Buttleman's 28th year as a bugler here at Churchill Downs. Congratulations to him. And good afternoon and welcome as we get set to draw the Kentucky Oaks and the Kentucky Derby, the 149th running of each. One of the most exciting moments of Derby week as we lead up to the races this weekend. Joined on the stage by several individuals. I'll give you an intro to each of them. Mike Anderson, the president here of Churchill Downs. Barbara Borden, the Chief Steward for Kentucky. Neil Curtis, Senior Counsel for Churchill Downs Incorporated. Joe Quinn, Senior Counsel for Churchill Downs Incorporated. And conducting the draw at the table to my left, your right, is Ben Huffman, the Vice President of Racing for Churchill Downs, and Dan Bork, the Assistant Racing Secretary and Stakes Coordinator for Churchill Downs. They will draw both races today. We'll start with the Oaks. We'll draw 7, take a break, and draw the next 7 for the Oaks first, and then we'll do the Derby after that. So with no further ado, gentlemen, let's do it.
Okay, Dan, put in 14. We do have 3 also eligibles in the Kentucky Oaks and overfilled. Also eligible 15 is going to be taxed with Rafael Bejarano. Also eligible 16 is Julia Shining with Luis Saez. Also eligible 17 is Hoosier Philly, Edgar Morales. Here we go, Kentucky Oaks.
Number 5.
5 is Wonder Wheel, Joel Rosario.
Number 5, Wonder Wheel, last year's champion filly, Had a bit of a clunker in the Ashland, to which Mark Cassie said he was dumbfounded she didn't run better and just said it wasn't her day, but she's been training very well since. Wonder Wheel's also 2 for 2 here at Churchill. She won her maiden race here last year, number 5, Wonder Wheel.
Number 7.
7 is Wet Paint, Flavian Pratt.
Number 7, Wet Paint, lost her debut on turf by more than 7 lengths last year, so it's kind of hard to imagine her being one of the favorites for this year's Oaks, but since then she's done very little wrong with 4 wins from 5 starts. She likes to come from off the pace, and jockey Flavian Pratt said when riding horses like this, he likes to sense the pace, identify the primary competition, and get a feel for how much horse he has left before making his move, which he will do on number 7, Wet Paint.
Number 2.
2, The Alley's Look, Javier Castellano.
Number 2, the Alice Look with Javier Castellano. Since breaking her maiden at Fairgrounds in December, the Alice Look has never been worse than 3rd. She has earned nearly $200,000 despite being purchased for just $60,000 at Keeneland September. The Alice Look, number 2.
Number 11.
11, Defining Purpose, Brian Hernandez.
Number 11, Defining Purpose, broke her maiden here at Churchill Downs last fall before wintering in Arkansas. Her return to Kentucky yielded a 20-1 upset win in the Ashland. Kenny McPeak is a 3-time runner-up in the Oaks, and he's using Brian Hernandez. They've had a lot of success together. He says that Brian's a rider that never has any silly excuses. When he goes elsewhere, he usually comes back, the consummate professional, a family man, and he always ends up back with him. And he will do so with Defining Purpose, number 11.
Number 4.
4, South Lawn, Ray Lou Gutierrez.
Trainer Norm Cassie, who trains South Lawn, grew up 20 minutes down I-65 in Bullitt County. This is his first Oak starter. He'll be joined on Saturday by more than 20 members of his family. He said this week, and I quote, "I'm running out of reasons why she can't win." South Lawn's owner, Robert Masterson, also campaigned champion turf mare, Tepin. That's South Lawn, number 4.
Number 14.
14, Pretty Mischievous, Tyler Gaffleone.
Number 14, Pretty Mischievous, will be wearing blinkers for the Oaks. Make note of that. The divisional leader for much of the spring until a disappointing runner-up finish last time out to Oaks rival South Lawn. Brendan Walsh didn't think the race set up that well for her, but she's coming into this Oaks in great shape, and that they're going to add the blinkers to help her focus a little bit better. That's Pretty Mischievous, number 14.
Number 9.
9, And Tell Me No Lies, Ramon Vasquez.
Number 9, and Tell Me No Lies, first Oak starter for Peter Miller. The leading West Coast 2-year-old filly last year hasn't won since October. She's one of 2 daughters of Arrogate in this race. The dam, though, Be Fair, did finish 4th in the 2009 Kentucky Oaks, none other than Rachel Alexandra. Those are the first 7. That's number 9, and Tell Me No Lies. We'll take a brief break and draw the second 7 for the Oaks.
Okay, the first 7 down, the next 7 yet to come. We're going to take a look at what we've got so far here, Scott. Defining Purpose, post position number 11. Pretty Mischievous, post position number 14. Defining Purpose wants to be forward, and Pretty Mischievous more of a stalker. Not a great post for Pretty Mischievous.
Yeah, not too bad, though. I came into the Kentucky Oaks not thinking there were going to be many horses that were hurt, hindered, or helped by the post position draw. Nothing here overly going to change that. Wet Paint, I think, drawing well. Not the rail, not the far outside. South Lawn, Wonder Wheel horses with tactical speed right in a good spot as well.
Let's send it over to Caitlin Free for her thoughts on what we've seen so far. Caitlin, still 7 more to go.
Still 7 more to go, Joe, but I agree with a lot of the things you guys said. Not bad draws for Wet Paint, South Lawn, and Wonder Wheel. I thought those were excellent draws for them, as you mentioned, tactical speed. So nothing overly shocking to me, and nothing that I think is going to be too big of a deal for those running styles.
All right, thanks, Caitlin. So 7 down, but 7 more to go. And when you look at the pace of the race, You still have Flying Connection, Darth Vader, Botanical, likely horses that want to go forward. The 14 post has already been taken, so those horses are more likely for a more inside draw.
Yeah, well, Flying Connection to me is going to go regardless of post position. So where she draws will probably matter compared to Darth Vader, compared to Botanical. If Botanical draws outside of those horses, I think she'll stalk. If Botanical draws inside, I wouldn't be surprised if jockey Chris Landeros gets a bit aggressive and maybe sends her to the front.
Horses with a stalking style, Promise Her America, Affirmative Lady, Mimi Kikuchi, those horses likely to be mid-pack, still a few closers where post position really doesn't matter all that much to
Yeah,
them.
overall, I just don't think this 14 horse field, particularly the post position's all that important. I think people would rather not have the rail, but other than that, nothing that
And
really matters too
Botanical's
much.
never run on dirt, so she doesn't want dirt in her face. She would like to draw outside and be in the clear.
Great point. No, dirt being kicked in the face of Botanical could be a negative, but she's going to be forward regardless.
7 down, 7 to go. We still have the morning line odds courtesy of Mike Battaglia after the Kentucky Oaks draw. We will have the draw for the Kentucky Derby done the exact same way. It'll be 10 up and 10 down. Kentucky Oaks draw still to come. We got the first 7. We've got the next 7 to come, and we're going to do that right now. Let's send it back to Travis Stone.
And welcome back to Churchill Downs. We get set to draw the final 7 post positions for Friday's Kentucky Oaks. Gentlemen, take us away.
Here we go.
Number 6.
6, Botanical, Chris Landeros.
Number 6, Botanical, is a starter for 2 times Kentucky Oaks winning trainer Brad Cox. Of course, her big question, as just was said, is whether or not she can handle the dirt. And Chris Landeros, the rider, said that grass horses can take you and you feed them some line and they spin their wheels. But with her, she doesn't spin. He paused and then said, but a work and a race are different things. We'll see for number 6, Botanical.
Number 8.
8, Promise Her America, Jorge Vargas Jr.
Number 8, Promise Her America, one of several horses who entered the Oaks scene with upset victories in the final round of preps. Trainer Ray Handel always believed the key for her was more distance, even if the Oaks seemed like a long shot. He said he's got her as good as he could have her, and he's not nervous yet, but when he throw the saddle on, he said he'll feel the nerves on Promise Her America. Number 8.
13.
13, Affirmative Lady, John Velazquez.
Number 13, Affirmative Lady, the Gulfstream Park Oaks winner, is owned by Ammo Racing and Kia Horabshian, who's been involved in racing overseas, but recently stepped up his involvement here in America. He said they had purchased Affirmative Lady when her sire Arrogate wasn't really that fashionable, but he loved her from the word go, as did trainer Graham Motion. And when asked about running in the Oaks, he said it's a dream, really. And that's 13, Affirmative Lady.
Number 12.
12, Darth Vader, Luis Saez.
Darth Vader is trained by Florida-based Michael Yates and is also owned by John Ropes of Florida, who has, he was telling me that he has a significant other of 7 years who sort of mentioned that, you know, you name all these horses after all your other family members, what about me? And so he said, all right. And so they decided on something to do with, obviously, Dorothy, which is her name, and they settled on Darth Vader. And he said the next to come, the sibling of this horse, is going to follow the Star Wars theme. So Darth Vader in the Kentucky Oaks as post number 12.
Number 10.
10, Flying Connection, Florent Giroux.
Number 10, Flying Connection, is owned by a group whose home track is in Sunland Park in New Mexico, and that's where this daughter of Nyquist qualified for the Oaks. In all 4 of her victories, she showed plenty of speed, figures to be a pace factor for sure, and she will be piloted by a 2-time Oak winner in Florent Giroux.
Number 1.
1, Mimi Kashushi, Mikhail Barcelona.
Mimi Kikuchi, making her first start in America, has won 3 races in a row, but hasn't started since February. Her sire, City of Light, won the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile right here at Churchill Downs back in 2018, part of his first crop at stud. Mimi Kikuchi from the rail, number 1.
And number 3.
3 is Gambling Girl, Irad Ortiz.
And number 3, Gambling Girl with Irad Ortiz, a New York bred that's yet to beat Open Company, but did come within a half a length last time after rallying from last. She's going to be reunited with Irad Ortiz, who rode her in both of her victories, and trainer Todd Pletcher knows the Kentucky Oaks quite well. If he wins another, he's got 4. That would put him in a tie for most ever. That is Gambling Girl number 3. So those are the first 7. We'll take a brief break, get the morning line odds for you, and then we'll come back and keep the show going.
14 horses for the Kentucky Oaks with a few on the outside looking in. And Scott, interesting. 4 horses we think are going to want to go forward. 3 of them with outside posts. Flying Connection in the 10, Defining Purpose with 11, Darth Vader in 12.
Yeah, with 1, 3, and 10 left, Flying Connection drawing the inside would have been a no-brainer. She would have been on the lead. But with Botanical drawn inside the other speeds, it'll be interesting to see how Chris Landeros handles things. You mentioned Dirt being kicked in the face. That won't be ideal. She might get sent pretty aggressively.
Yeah, no doubt about it, because there's 5 or 6 horses that like to stalk the pace. Pretty Mischievous, Wonder Wheel, Southlawn, the Alice Look, Affirmative Lady, Promiser America, Mimi Kikuchi. They all have similar styles. It's going to be interesting to see how that second flight sorts itself out in and out of that first turn.
No, you make a great point with Southlawn, the Alice Look, and Wonder Wheel being inside the speeds, not outside. They'll hopefully try to relax inside, but that might be easier said than done.
It's pretty much a done deal that Wet Paint's going to be the morning line favorite. We'll get that from Mike Battaglia momentarily. Let's send her over to Caitlin Free for her thoughts on the draw. Caitlin?
Definitely thought it was interesting as well with Botanical drawing post position number 6, Chris Landeros. He's going to have to be pretty aggressive out of there. Doesn't have many options, but she is drawn on either side to horses that are going to kind of be more mid-pack to closer type of horses. So she's going to have a little bit maybe to work with there. Didn't really think there was anybody that was necessarily a loser for the draw. I didn't think there was anything that was totally detrimental to anyone. But except for the Kentucky Derby, this race not as much of a big deal with the post positions. This is just kind of run like more of a normal style race.
Well, thanks, Caitlin. Wet Paint, the likely morning line favorite, we'll find out momentarily. Who do you think the second choice is going to be? You're going to have a lot of horses in that 5, 6, 8 to 1 range, I would guess.
I think Botanical or Wonder Wheel, perhaps. Wonder Wheel with the big name, the 2-year-old champ. Botanical, a lot of 1s in front of her name recently. The dirt is the question, but other than that, she's been really, really good.
No doubt about it. There you see the field of 14. Again, a few horses on the outside looking in, a trio. In fact, were there to be a defection. Next up, the morning line odds with a longtime morning line odds maker Mike Battaglia. Then we're going to have the draw for the Kentucky Derby. We're going to do it the same way, 10 for the Derby, followed by the final 10. But right now, it's time to reveal the morning line odds for the Kentucky Oaks.
And welcome back, everyone, to Churchill Downs for the reading of the morning line odds for the Oaks. Just a couple of housekeeping notes. Note that jockey Luis Saez, his first preference for the Oaks will be Julia Shining, who's also eligible number 16. So Luis Saez's first preference is Julia Shining. Second preference will be Darth Vader. And here are the morning line odds for this year's Kentucky Oaks. And I'll read them in alphabetical order for those of us with draw sheets here in the room. And here we go. Affirmative Lady at 10 to 1. And Tell Me No Lies from post 9 is 15 to 1. Botanical number 6 is 4 to 1. Defining Purpose number 11, 12 to 1. Darth Vader number 12 at 20 to 1. Flying Connection number 10 is 15. As is number 3 Gambling Girl, 15 to 1. Number 1 Mimi Kikuchi, 20. 14 Pretty Mischievous, 10 to 1. Number 8, Promiser America, 30 to 1. Number 4, Southlawn, 8 to 1. Number 2, The Alice Look, 15 to 1. The morning line favorite, number 7, Wet Paint at 5 to 2. Number 5, Wonder Wheel, 12 to 1. 15, Taxed at 20. 16, Julia Shining at 15 to 1. And number 17, Hoosier Philly at 30 to 1. So once again, Wet Paint, number 7, the morning line favorite for the Kentucky Oaks at 5 to 2. Take a brief break, send it back over to Joe and Shap as we get situated with the cards and the pills to draw the Kentucky Derby up next. Be right back.
All right, Scott, so we got our answer on the morning line odds there. Botanical, the second choice at 4 to 1. No surprise to see Wet Paint 5-2 morning line favorite. Brad Cox with the top pair.
Top pair, Botanical 4-1. Pretty aggressive there from odds maker Mike Battaglia, but probably the right second choice. Was a little bit surprised he made Wonder Wheel as high as he did. Now, she hasn't been in good form as a 3-year-old, particularly the last race in the Ashland, but she has name power. She's got those grade 1 wins last year. But otherwise, no big surprise. South Lawn at 8-1. Pretty Mischievous 10-1. Affirmative Lady, I'm not sure will be 10-1. Might be a little bit higher.
Yeah, and you've got horses at square prices, like we mentioned, that have a big chance. I mean, Pretty Mischievous was awesome. You know, Louisiana's been a hotbed for these Kentucky Oaks winners for the last several years. She did lose to South Lawn in the Fairgrounds Oaks, so those two horses at 8-10-1 in that price range would be inviting. But from post position number 14, Pretty Mischievous is going to have to try to work a trip. Defining Purpose from post position number 11, also, as we mentioned earlier, wants to go forward. But we do have the post positions, we do have the odds, so now we can really dig into how we feel the pace scenario is going to shake out.
Without question. At least Pretty Mischievous has Tyler Gaffleone, who knows how to navigate things here under the Twin Spires at Churchill Downs. That outside draw will be challenging. Wonder Wheel, South Lawn, middle-priced horses, but Wet Paint, I thought might be 3-1, 5-2, a little bit aggressive.
We're about a minute away from the Kentucky Derby draw. Let's get a quick thought from Caitlin Free. Caitlin?
I'm with you guys. Really, the only thing that surprised me from the draw was Botanical up there at 4-1. I kind of envisioned her maybe up there at 5-1, 6-1. Not really that big of a difference, but definitely seems to be the one that will be second choice. Very much agree with Wet Paint being in there at 5-2. So really, I thought it was pretty spot on.
Kentucky draw, the Kentucky Oaks draw is over, Scott. You can feel the tension, you know, during that draw. It's growing even more so with the 20-horse field in the Derby.
Yeah, 20-horse field, biggest race in the world, the Kentucky Derby. Post positions matter a little more. Everybody's waiting for sure.
He kicked us off for the Kentucky Oaks draw. He's going to do it again momentarily. Steve Buttleman. Travis Stone will continue the proceedings with Ben Hoffman and Dan Bork. The time has come for the post position draw for the 149th running of the Kentucky Derby. Once again, here's Steve Buttleman.
All right, Steve Buttleman with the call to post. We get set to draw the 149th Kentucky Derby. Same process applies. Ben with a card and Dan Bork with a pill. And we will do the first 10, take a brief break, and do the second 10 after that for the Kentucky Derby. A couple of quick housekeeping notes. Rocket Can, Sun Thunder, both with blinkers on for the Kentucky Derby. And Ben has a few also eligibles as well.
Okay, the Kentucky Derby, we had 23 enter this morning, so there's going to be 20 runners with 3 also eligibles. They are Cyclone Mischief, also eligible 21 with Rosario. AE 22 is Mandarin Hero, Kazushi Kimura. AE 23, King Russell, Rafael Bejarano. Dan put in 20 pills. Here we go.
Number 15.
15, Forte, Irad Ortiz.
Well, there we go. A little drama right out of the way. Forte. The team of Forte has 13 Eclipse Awards between them, 8 for Todd Pletcher, 4 for Irad Ortiz Jr., and of course 1 for Forte, the defending two-year-old champion last year. 21 of 80 Kentucky Derby starters that were champions in their two-year-old year went on to win. When Mage went past Forte in the Florida Derby, Irad said he jumped back into the bid on him nicely, and he knew there was a lot of racing left, so he took his time, and Forte kept coming. He said Forte's biggest asset is his willingness to win, his ability, but most importantly, his mind, of which you'll need all of them on Saturday from post 15 Forte in the Derby.
Number 18.
18, Rocket Can, Junior Alvarado.
Rocket Can broke his maiden on our Stars of Tomorrow card right here at Churchill Downs before running second later in the meet to fellow Derby rival Confidence Game. After winning the Holy Boat earlier this year, he ascended up the ranks quickly, tailed off a little bit lately. Bill Mott hopes the addition of blinkers will tighten Rocket Can up for the Derby post 18.
Number 2.
2, verifying Tyler Gaffalione.
Verifying post number 2, the son of Triple Crown winner Justify is also a half-to champion Midnight Bizu. Sold for $775,000 as a yearling. When the connections felt, he had the looks, physicality, and demeanor to match the pedigree. His biggest weapon is his speed, but also his rider. Tyler Gaffalione has won 6 straight riding titles here at Churchill Downs. Number 2, verifying.
Number 12.
12, Jace's Road, Florent Giroux.
Number 12, Jace's Road for Alba Racing. Mr. Alba's nephew Reed helps them name their horses each year and has 3 children, and they started to name some of the horses they run after the kids, the first of which was Brody's Cause, their first Kentucky Derby winner, Jace's Road, another one. But the third name they submitted got rejected. They had to find a new name for it, and ironically, the new name was Angel of Empire, but Jace's Road is number 12 for them in the Derby on Saturday.
Number 8.
8, Mage, Javier Castellano.
Mage, which also means magician or wizard, was named after his sire Good Magic and his Good Magic's dam Glinda the Good from The Wizard of Oz. Mage's eye-catching far turn move in the Florida Derby wasn't quite enough to beat Forte, but it was only his 3rd career start. Gustavo Delgado has 3 Derby starters to his name, and it'll be the 16th for Javier Castellano on Mage, number 8.
17.
17, Derma Sotogake, Christophe Lemaire.
Number 17, Derma Sotogake, of course, comes from Japan via the UAE. UAE Derby winners are 0 for 18 in the Kentucky Derby, though. The best finish was 5th with Master of Hounds in 2021. He did go wire to wire in the UAE Derby, but Derma Sotogake has rated kindly in the past, so he's a little bit more adaptable than it might appear on paper. That's Derma Sotogake, number 17.
Number 16.
16 is Raise Cane, Gerardo Corrales.
Number 16, Raise Cane, burst on the scene with his 7+ length Gotham score earlier this year, where he came from 11th of 14th that day. Keeneland-based Ben Colebrook's first Kentucky Derby starter. He settled his first horse in November 2012. The jockey, Gerardo Corrales, recently finished 2nd in one of the stronger Turfway Park meetings to date. That is Raise Cane.
Number 6.
6, Kings Barnes, Jose Ortiz.
Number 6, Kings Barnes, the only undefeated horse in this year's Derby since 1915. 34 horses have started in the Derby with a perfect record. 9 exited with that record intact. Jose Ortiz has never ridden Kings Barnes in a race, but got on him before his debut and said he showed a lot of talent, so he started following him ever since. In addition to the workout here, Jose has rewatched all of his replays in preparation for riding number 6, Kings Barnes, in the Derby.
Number 14.
14, Angel of Empire, Flavian Pratt.
Number 14, Angel of Empire, figures to be the shortest price of the Brad Cox Quartet in this year's Derby. Turned a lot of heads with a big gallop out in his workout here the other day. He likes to finish his races from off the pace as well. Flavian said the Derby seems open, with a lot of horses having similar running style, so he believes to start is going to be really important, and for him, that'll happen in post 14, Angel of Empire.
Number 13.
13, Sun Thunder, Brian Hernandez.
Number 13, Sun Thunder. Trainer Kenny McPeak is adding blinkers in hopes of finding an added dimension for Sun Thunder, who he says has done well despite some paceless races and not so great trips. Like in the Oaks, McPeak calls upon Brian Hernandez Jr. to ride. It will be Brian's 4th mount in the Kentucky Derby with number 13, Sun Thunder. And that wraps up the first 10. We'll take a brief break and draw the pills for the final 10 horses in the Derby. Be back after this.
Well, the first thought, Scott, is the 2 post position being drawn by verifying. One of a handful of horses that want to go forward in this year's Kentucky Derby. I don't think we're going to see the 45 and change half mile that set the table for a long shot last year.
Very unlikely. You never know what's going to happen with horses breaking. 20 horses, young 3-year-olds. But that was one of the things I noted verifying along the inside. Kings Barnes also. But the headliner, Forte, the first pill drawn, out of trouble in the 15-hole. I'm sure Todd Pletcher, Mike Rapoli breathed a big sigh of relief.
10 post positions yet to be drawn. We're going to do that momentarily. The 1 is one of them, and maybe not as detrimental as maybe it once was. We're going to find out why with Caitlin Free.
It certainly isn't, and as you mentioned, the gates or the rail still up for grabs, but we have now got a new starting gate that we implemented in 2020. It came from Australia, the same gate that they use in the Melbourne Cup. Here is a look at the old starting gate, and as you'll see, the horses that break from post position number 1 have to make almost a left-hand turn to not run into the edge of the rail there to establish position. Also, another thing with the old gate, interestingly enough, horses like Forte and Angel of Empire, horses that are going to be favorites, we're at a disadvantage with that gap, but now with the new starting gate, the gates are a little bit more narrow. It's away from the rail, so although drawing the rail, not quite as big of a deal, but still maybe not the most ideal.
I don't think the connections in this room, we don't have a post position yet, would necessarily agree, Scott.
Right. I mean, it's like Caitlin said, not as disadvantageous, but I don't think anybody here is begging for number 1.
No doubt about it. Let's take a look at the post positions once again to find out what has been taken and what is still remaining. Mike Battaglia's morning line still to come. Kings Barnes is going to go forward, Scott. He drew post position number 6. Pretty good draw for him.
I think so as well. Confidence Game is yet to draw a post. He is a horse that many are predicting to be on or right off the early pace. 2 fills, Larry Ravelli's first starter. Tapit Trice is the horse I'm keeping my eye out on the most. If he draws the 1 or even the 3, that would definitely hurt his chances, at least in my opinion.
Post 1 is still available. The far outside posts are still open too, 19 and 20. A little bit of drama here in the room. We're going to send it back to Travis Stone to complete the Kentucky Derby draw.
And welcome back to Churchill Downs as we get set to draw the final 10 post positions for the Derby. Just 10 to go. And we'll see what Miss Hannah Edelin, Miss Kentucky 2022, does with the silks for the final 10. So Ben and Dan, shall we?
Okay, here we go.
Number 19.
19 is Lord Miles, Paco Lopez.
Post position 19 for Lord Miles, a homebred for Vegso Racing, and trainer Safi Joseph Jr., who always felt that this horse had some ability, but only seemed to run in spots. He felt that the Tampa Bay Derby, though, was a, quote, sneaky good race. And after that, they decided to take one more shot at some points. Points they got, and here they are. That is Lord Miles, number 19.
Number 7.
7, Reincarnate, John Velazquez.
Number 7, Reincarnate, is from runner-up Good Magic, Kentucky Derby runner-up Good Magic's first crop. Started his career with 2 consecutive turf races, but has never finished worse than 3rd in all of his 7 starts. Reincarnate is described as a freckled gray and was named after Gavin Murphy of SF Racing and Bloodstock, said that he reminded him of his colt's maternal grandfather, Holy Bull, and thus he named him Reincarnate right there on the spot, number 7.
Number 4.
4, Confidence Game, James Graham.
Number 4, Confidence Game. Winning Derby horses have averaged 31 days or so since their most recent start of the last 20 years. Confidence Game will be coming in off a 70-day layoff. Only one of 3 horses in this Derby, though, with a win at Churchill Downs, and like others, turned some heads here this morning, or this week with his morning training. He's also versatile. He can come from off the pace, but in the past, he's also shown some speed. So Confidence Game will break from post 4.
Number 9.
9, Skinner, Juan Hernandez.
Number 9, Skinner's come from behind style is similar to that of Giacomo, who John Sheriff's trained back in 2005. Lee Searing and his wife's CRK Stable's 4th Derby starter. Skinner is named after one of Mr. Searing's best salesmen, 86-year-old Don Skinner, who will be here this weekend for the 149th Derby. Congratulations to him. Skinner, number 9.
Number 3.
3, 2 Fills, Jareth Loveberry.
2 fills, number 3. It's the Derby debut for all of the connections, including jockey Jareth Loveberry, who said he is, and I quote, 90% excited, 7% let's get it over with, 2% nervous, and 1% am I allowed to turn my phone off. He added 2 fills can be a bit quirky, but is also very responsive, and they've really learned each other, which could come in handy in Saturday's Kentucky Derby. 2 fills, number 3.
Number 1.
Number 1, Hit Show, Manny Franco.
Number 1, Hit Show, will go unfavored for the first time in his career. Despite a 3-for-5 record, he narrowly lost the Wood Memorial, much like Funnyside did. It was the last to come from the Wood to win the Kentucky Derby. Manny said he has faith in his horse, and when the gates open, he will let him go where he wants, depending on the pace. That is Hit Show, number 1.
Number 5.
5, Tappet Trice, Luis Saez.
Number 5, Tappet Trice, the most expensive horse in this Derby with a price tag of $1.3 million when he was sold at Keeneland in September. He showed more positional speed in his Bluegrass win than his win in the Tampa Bay Derby, where he frankly looked like a long shot on the far turn. Jockey Luis Saez, who will ride Tappet Trice, will also stick around and ride the entire meet here at Churchill Downs this spring. That's number 5, Tappet Trice.
Number 20.
20, Continuar, Rausi Sakai.
Number 20, Continuar. Despite being sired by 2016 sprint champion Dreyfong, he actually won his career debut going 9 furlongs and then qualified on the Japan Road to the Kentucky Derby to start in the Derby this weekend. He and Dermis Otagake are the 5th and 6th Japanese-based horses to run in the Kentucky Derby. That's number 20, Continuar.
Number 11.
11 is Disarm, Joel Rosario.
Disarm comes from the same team that was runner-up last year with Epicenter. Both of his runner-up finishes this year, though, have been against the flow of the race, as the winners in both went wire to wire. He needed the points last time and got them in the Lexington, where starters are 3 for 38 in the Derby. Charismatic won it, though, back in 1999.
Number 10.
10, Practical Move, Ramon Vasquez.
Never worse than 3rd in 7 starts. Practical Move brings a 3-race win streak to Kentucky. His prior Practical Joke, known more as a sprint or middle distance horse, but he did finish 5th in the Derby despite breaking from post 19. Trainer Tim Yakteen said both sets of his owners are good sports, and he simply wants to win the Derby for both of them and his stable. He'll get his chance from post number 10 with Practical Move, one of his 2 entrants in Saturday's Derby. That is the 20. We'll send it back to Joe and Shap and Caitlin as we gather in the morning line odds. We'll be back in a moment to report those to you, so sit tight and we'll be right back.
Regardless of the pose positions, racing good fortune certainly comes into play out of the starting gate into that first turn, Scott. But you would think Jace's Road from post 12, Reincarnate from post 7 are going to go. Kings Barnes would love to lead, that first and a half flight, so to speak, verifying from the inside post position number 2. He's going to have to fight probably a little bit harder for position.
Yeah, a lot of this potential speed horses are drawn towards the inside, verifying, confidence game, Kings Barnes, Reincarnate. You would expect all of them to have to be aggressive. Both Japanese horses, Joe, drawing to the far outside. I'm not sure how much their post will matter. Dermis Otagake, I don't know if they're going to send from all the way out there, but they are going to be a little bit aggressive. They'll need to get forward position.
Let's send it over to Caitlin Freya for her thoughts on the post position draw. Caitlin, 20 of them. Now the real handicapping, the next stage of handicapping begins.
It absolutely does. Going to talk about a couple of the bookend positions. Hit Show, I thought it was interesting that Manny Franco said he'll just let him go where he wants. So I would think that the rail as well with the new gate wouldn't be as detrimental. And then Continuar in post position number 20, much more of a closer horse that definitely wants a distance. So I don't believe post position number 20 is going to be all too detrimental to him at all. Otherwise, I thought everybody else, Drew, pretty fair.
Thanks, Caitlin. Good post, I thought, for Practical Move and Disarm, 10 and 11. You're talking about kind of horses that want to be, mid-pack. Practical Move, a little bit better tactical speed. Confidence game, and Travis Stone said it, when his post position was drawn. He was close to the lead in some of those races at Fairgrounds, fast-paced races. His most recent win in the slop, he came from a little bit out of it. I'm not sure exactly where that horse is going to be placed in the race.
Well, off a 10-week freshening, you would expect him maybe to be a little more keen. His works, he's been really impressive. I would expect an aggressive ride. Caitlin touched on Hit Show. He's been a little tough to relax in the mornings. I think that inside draw is probably not what they wanted for him. He's been impressive overall in his career. It will take a very impressive ride for Manny Franco to work out a trip from that mid-pack type.
Not a great post for 2 fills down there in the 3-hole. We'll see what kind of trip he works out from there. Okay, so we've got the 20 horses. No drama as far as it goes with the morning line favorite, with Forte being the public choice, and Mike Battaglia is as well. Let's get the rest of them.
And welcome back, everyone, as we get set to deliver the morning line odds made by Mike Battaglia, presented by Twin Spires for Saturday's Kentucky Derby. And just like with the Oaks, we'll read through them in alphabetical order, and that'll wrap up the proceedings this morning. So here we go. 14 Angel of Empire is 8-1, and third choice on the morning line for the Derby. Number 4, Confidence Game, is 20. Number 20, Continuar, 50. Number 17, Derma Sotogake, 10. 11, Disarm, is 30-1. Number 15, Forte, is the 3-1 morning line favorite for the Derby. Number 1, Hit Show, 30. Number 12, Jace's Road, 15. Number 6, King's Barnes, 12. Number 19, Lord Miles, is 30-1. Number 8, Mage, 15-1. Number 10, Practical Move, is 10-1. Number 16, Raise Cain, 50. Number 7, Reincarnate, 50-1. Number 18, Rocket Can, is 30. Number 9, Skinner, is 20-1. Number 13, Sun Thunder, is 50-1. Number 5, Tepid Trice, is the second favorite for the Derby at 5-1. Number 3, Two Fills, is 12-1. Number 2, Verifying, is 15. Also eligible, Cyclone Mischief is 30, Mandarin Hero is 20-1, and King Russell is 50-1 for Saturday's Kentucky Derby. And that does wrap it up from up here. Thank you to all the Horseman Connections for joining us this morning and taking the time to answer questions. Good luck to everybody. Enjoy the races this week, and we'll see you for the Oaks and Derby. Have a good day.
Thanks to Travis Stone and everyone that participated in this draw. The show is not done yet. Caitlin Free is going to be standing by with some interviews. We're going to take a look at the field with the morning line odds, and it's got 20 horses, so the morning line is a little bit tricky. There's only so many points that can be distributed, so you're going to see a lot of 20, 30-1s. You're going to see a lot of 20, 30-1s in the Kentucky Derby, the best betting race of the year.
Without question. And I think Mike Battaglia nailed the top 3. I do expect, of course, Forte to go off as the favorite. I expect Tapit Trice to go off as the second choice. An Angel of Empire horse I'm fond of, I do expect to go off as the third choice. I could poke holes in some of these, but a tough job, like you said, by Mike Battaglia to nail a 20-horse field.
No doubt about it. And the big question leading in the last couple of weeks, and particularly the next few days, once we finally get some odds on the board Friday with pre-wagering, Derma Sotogake, 10-1. What kind of money is this horse going to take, Scott? You know, you don't have a lot of information to go on as far as handicapping. You've got replays, you've got some speed figures that are a little bit more difficult to find. It'll be interesting to see what kind of price he goes off at.
Yeah, a couple weeks back, I thought Derma Sotogake had a real shot to be a clear third choice, maybe even second. The buzz wasn't quite as strong as it was on other horses over the last 14 or so days. I do think he'll take some support. 10-1, about what I would have made him as well.
Standing by with Caitlin Free is Todd Pletcher. He's won the Kentucky Derby twice. He's never had a stronger hand coming in than he does this year.
I'm joined here by Todd Pletcher, and no doubt holding 3 aces in this year's Kentucky Derby. Forte, morning line favorite, drawn in post position number 15 with the old gate. That could have been a little bit of a problem with kind of the shuffling trying to get over. Do you see that as still an issue with the new gate this year?
No, I don't. I think it changes with the, with the one gate. You don't have that space in between 14 and 15. So yeah, we're happy with the draw.
King's Barnes drawn to the inside, as well as Tapit Trice right next door to him. Tapit Trice is kind of in there with some of the speed. King's Barnes there as well. He's got some speed to his outside. What do you make of those draws for the two of them?
Well, the key for both of them is that first step to get away cleanly, and then Tapit Trice isn't super quick, but hopefully he can get into the first turn, save some ground, get into a good position. King's Barnes probably be somewhat more forwardly placed.
And then what can you tell me about how you feel about Gambling Girl's draw for the Kentucky Oaks?
It was fine. It came down, she was one of the last 2 out, so it was 1 or 3, and I guess we'd probably prefer 3 over 1, but I think it's important for her. She's going to need to save some ground all the way around there to have her best shot.
All right, thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
Todd Pletcher coming in, 1 for the Kentucky Oaks and 3 very big chances in the Kentucky Derby.
Forte with that outside draw. Kingsbarns tap it to Trice with inside draws. We've talked about Kingsbarns. You know, he was on the lead in the Louisiana Derby, went gate to wire going 1 mile and 3/16. And he doesn't need to be on the lead, though. We saw the race prior at Tampa where there was a runoff speed, and he just kind of sat second, high cruising speed. He should be in a great position if he gets out of the gate well and finds that position into the first turn.
Yeah, it'll be his biggest challenge to relax. In all three of his races, he's shown tactical speed, but also relaxed. You know, the two previous races before the Louisiana Derby, relaxed just off the pace after breaking well, then went to the lead in Louisiana. But there will be horses to his inside and outside that have speed, so we'll see how he relaxes. He's been a pro so far.
Stamina is not an issue with Tapit Trice, but Luis Saez has to work. I mean, he's going to have to work all the way around the track, going 1.25 miles. Top Ledger's done really well in the Belmont. Seems like a really good Belmont horse moving forward with that stamina. If you take a look at the field and the odds, but there's no discrediting Tapit Trice's resume, and I thought he was a lot better in the Bluegrass and showed a little bit of heart that day too.
Showed heart, showed a little more tactical speed to get into the race. Of the three Pletcher runners, none of them drew terribly, but Tapit Trice, I think they would have liked to have drawn more towards the outside, let him be in the clear to get into that stride. Luis Saez, like you said, he always has to work to ride Tapit Trice. He'll have to work that much more drawing in between speed horses like Confidence Game, Kingsbarns, and Reincarnate.
Angel of Empire won a fall-apart race in the Risen Star. Fast pace, closed into it, showed his stamina that day. Better tactical speed from him as well in the Arkansas Derby with that scintillating move nearing in and out of that turn. I think post position number 14 is probably perfect for him.
I would absolutely agree with that. After the Risen Star, I thought that was the day for Angel of Empire. You mentioned the hot pace, taking advantage of it. Didn't see him as a horse I was likely going to pick in the Derby, but his Arkansas Derby, he showed a new dimension. Somewhat like Tapit Trice, Joe. A little more speed, got a little more into the race, had less to do when they turned for home, and boy, did he finish well in Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Derma Sotogake, post position number 17 at 10-1. Wire to wire in the UAE Derby, but he had an inside draw that night. There wasn't a lot of speed in that race. The rider took it to him. This horse in his previous races, more of a mid-pack stalker. Man, he's going to be in a position into that first turn to maybe be hung wide. Going to need a little bit of racing luck and a good ride.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we found out how good he is in the UAE Derby. He had things his way. He looked great. He was dominant. We'll find out how good he is come Saturday, where Derma Sotogake drew towards the far outside.
We'll be talking about it in the days to come. Live racing at Churchill Downs, 5:00 Tuesday, tomorrow, all the way through Kentucky Derby Day, but a fantastic wagering menu. A lot of two-day wagers, Friday into Saturday, and looking forward to digging into these PPs and firing up that Twin Spires account.
Yeah, my Twin Spires account will be loaded up. The wagering menu saw it. What an absolute thrill it'll be to dive into those. Pick threes, pick fours, pick fives, pick sixes, something for everyone. Don't forget about those win bets, though, Joe.
No doubt about it. And, you know, the past performances are going to be out in the next couple of hours. We're drawing the entirety of the cards, you know, today. Going to go final for the Derby, I believe, later tonight, final for the Oaks tomorrow. We've been doing a lot of handicapping as far as these races go for the last 7 months. Now we're going to put the finishing touches on our handicapping and come up with our final decisions.
Right, and rumor has it that the fields for the stakes on both Friday and Saturday were robust, big fields. The cards are coming up great. We've got 5 big days of racing starting tomorrow, of course, culminating on Saturday with the Derby.
The Kentucky Derby on Saturday, the Oaks on Friday, and a lot of nerves in this building, finding out what the post positions will be. Trainers just want to get their horses at this point into the starting gate, and one of those about ready to embark on the biggest race of his career is trainer Norm Cassie, standing by with Caitlin.
I'm joined with trainer Norm Cassie, trainer of South Lawn, drawn in post position number 4. This is your first Kentucky Oaks. A lot of pressure coming in.
I don't think there's any pressure. I'm just going to sit back and try to enjoy the ride. The only pressure that we have is putting it on myself. This is a big, big deal. It's a race I've always wanted to win, and now we have a great opportunity to do so.
What did you think about post position number 4 for her? A lot of speed, kind of more toward the outside.
I'm happy. I feel like there's enough speed that it will clear, kind of loosen things up down on the inside for us. She's okay being drawn inside. When Ray Lou finds a hole, she'll respond, hopefully in a big way.
Ray Lou going to only be his second Kentucky Oaks. He seems to be a pretty good fit for her. Can you tell me a little bit more about their relationship?
I think that's one of the big narratives going into this race. Ray Lou gets along with her really, really well. One thing I can say about Ray Lou, he's a super confident man. He's very confident in South Lawn, and that gives me a lot of confidence.
All right, Norm, congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you.
Norm Cassie, trainer of South Lawn in post position number 4, going to be one to look forward to in the Kentucky Oaks.
And Scott, as far as the Oaks goes, South Lawn has really come into her own. She burst onto the scene at Fairgrounds with that maiden-breaking win. She goes right into the Fairgrounds Oaks, and she sits a great trip, kind of sort of shows a new dimension. You talk about horses coming into big races the right way.
Right, off the freshening first start as a 3-year-old, she took a huge step forward, and Norm talked about Ray Gutierrez's confidence there. He's also a very aggressive rider. He doesn't get cheated. He made an aggressive move that day in the allowance race the day before the Risen Star, and boy, did she take another step forward in the Fairgrounds Oaks. I think South Lawn has a huge shot to give Norm his first Grade 1.
Yeah, Ray Gutierrez winning the Fairgrounds jockey title this year, and we kind of thought of him as a little bit of a forward rider early in his career. He's been showing, different dimensions as a rider. Jose Santos Jr., his agent, doing a great job, and they huddle up and talk about how Ray can improve on a day-to-day basis, and we've seen it.
Yeah, I mean, we all know these guys are very talented, the jockeys. Some of them they all put a lot of time in, but I can tell just from talking to Ray regularly that he is a guy that studies up, puts the time in, and it really is shown. He was once just an all-out send jockey when I first saw him, but he's got multiple dimensions now. I think he's a perfect fit for South Lawn.
South Lawn, I believe 8-1 in the morning
on the line,
line,
yes.
correct? And
Sounds
horse
about
that
right.
you've been high on
Yep.
ever since she won the first time at Fairgrounds. So we'll see how that plays out. Talked about Wet Pains coming from way off the pace. It's not a 20-horse field. It's a 14-horse field. The pace has an opportunity, I think, in the Kentucky Oaks, to be honest. We've seen her prove herself over a fast track at Oak Lawn. A little bit of skepticism going into that last race because she had won her previous 2 races on off tracks, but she proved herself in the fantasy.
And she ran without Lasix as well. She ran on Lasix in the race prior to that, so that was a question as well. Now, she draws inside the speeds in that race, so we might see Ray work out somewhat of a similar trip as he did in the Fairgrounds race, where he makes an aggressive middle move. That wouldn't surprise me at all, knowing Ray, knowing the horse, but she is going to have to work out a trip. She won't be on the lead in this race.
Sat that pocket kind of trip in the Fairgrounds Oaks.
And moved early, yeah.
Got first run on the closers and caught Pretty Mischievous maybe a little bit by surprise. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, the Fairgrounds Oaks, yep.
7 horses between the Kentucky Derby and the Kentucky Oaks for our next guest, who's standing by with Caitlin Free.
I'm joined by Brad Cox, trainer of 4 in the Kentucky Derby. I want to ask you first about Forte and Jason, or it's not, excuse me, not Forte, my goodness. Angel of Empire and Jason's Road. They're drawn pretty close to each other, drawn kind of in the middle. What do you make of those middle draws for them?
I think they're good. Jason's Road hopefully can break running and get a good early position. Flavian obviously knows Angel of Empire really well, obviously breezing a time or two, and obviously gave him a great ride last time. So, I think it should work out well.
And then finally, the other 2 you have Verifying and Hit Show drawn in the 2 inside gates. Hit Show, a little bit more of a horse that gets kind of a little bit keyed up. What did you make of the rail draw for him?
Well, he overcame an outside post to run very well last time. Now he's going to have to overcome an inside post. I think it's okay. We've got the tighter starting gate now. It works out well for the Derby. I don't think it eliminates the inside horses like it used to with the auxiliary gate. So I'm going to, take a positive spin on it. Hopefully he and Verifying can get good trips from down inside.
They're going to ask you about the Oaks, Wet Paint, Botanical, and the Alice Look. Botanical drawn there in post position number 6. Do you see her being a little bit more forward from that position, or having to sit a little bit more of a patient trip?
I think she'll break running. That ultimately will be up to Chris going into the first turn where he wants her and what everyone else is doing. But I'd say more forward than maybe mid-pack, and then obviously Allie's looks probably, similar, maybe not quite as close. Just kind of see how it works out.
All right, thank you, Brad. I'm sure you have many people to talk to.
Thanks, Caitlin.
Brad Cox, trainer of 4 in the Kentucky Derby and 3 in the Kentucky Oaks. He's going to be a busy man.
Well, thanks, Caitlin. He certainly is. And Brad Cox had a lot of horses that were offered during the course of the Kentucky Derby future wager pools. back, January, February, have the pleasure of wintering with Brad at the fairgrounds, talking to him a lot. If you would have asked him who his top 3-year-olds were, Angel of Empire wouldn't be one of the first ones that he would have mentioned.
No, and he was shuffling the deck regularly. You were with him a lot. I got to go down there a lot. Every week, kind of a different 3-year-old that was kind of taking that next step forward. When I got down there, you were already there for the Risen Star. It was clear that he knew that Angel of Empire had taken a step forward. Just how big of a step? I mean, I think it's pretty clear he's taken multiple steps forward. There are some people, speaking of the future wager, that have huge odds on that horse to win the Derby.
All right, we're going to wrap up the Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks Draw Show. We thank Ford for sponsoring the show here at Churchill Downs. Don't forget, 2 for Tuesday tomorrow, live racing back in action. Looking very forward to the Oaks on Friday and the Kentucky Derby on Saturday. We thank you all for joining us. Best of luck to all the connections. Enjoy the experience of having a horse in the Kentucky Oaks and the Kentucky Derby. We'll be back with live racing, and don't forget the work show at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. Have a great day.